everyone, Maya here, and you're on with another episode of Talky, Tidbits. And let me just say real quick that this week a lot of things have happened so fast for me. For those of you watching this, you may or may not know, but I published my first book on Amazon. It's a poetry collection filled with the poems I've been working on for about a little over 3.5 years now. And it's now live. It's now available through Amazon in both paperback and Kindle forms. And so I'm really excited because for years I've had this childhood dream of becoming the writer behind a book. I don't know. I just always felt that strong desire to write something. And even now at the moment, I'm working on other manuscripts to type up, like for a fantasy series I'm working on. And I've also begun jotting down some new poems in my notebook for another collection to publish in the future. But to be honest, for now, I'm also deciding to take a break from writing for the novels for a little bit. So for the next couple of months, really the only writing I'm going to be doing is little poems here and there in my little notebook when the opportunity strikes or I feel in the right mood to write a new poem. But then at the same time, I'm thinking more and more about what it means for me in the long run. And I'll admit, so basically how it went down was that around last week, on Saturday or Sunday, I was watching the news with my family. We were watching about the political scene unfolding here in the United States. Maybe or maybe you're not, maybe you are or are not aware of it. But as I speak, next Wednesday, on the 20th, is when the President-elect, Joe Biden, will be officially inaugurated. So he'll actually be made president officially. And a lot of people are curious, some fearful of what may happen on the 20th. And let me just say that, I'm kind of curious myself, just because I feel I've become more aware of politics, a little bit more interested in it over the last year with things that have gone on. But that's a story for another day. The point is, my family and I were watching the news, last week, and I was pointing out, because the specific news video we were watching was mentioning how some guy had published another book about this whole situation, and my mom pointed out that I could about write something myself and publish it, and I told her I actually had been considering doing that for Amazon. And so I went to my blog, pseudopen611, and I saw that on the bottom of the homepage it said that I had to date written and posted 70 poems. And then I thought about how I'd planned on actually getting those poems published once I reached 71. So I believe it was between Sunday night and Monday night that I worked on getting the manuscript by getting all my poems into one document. And then from Tuesday morning, I am not joking, from Tuesday morning up until about when I went to bed on Tuesday night, with some breaks in between, obviously, I spent all day proofreading that manuscript of poems. I read through it in my head about 2 or 3 times, and I read it out loud to myself once to check for errors and all that. And I'll admit, I'm still a little nervous because I'm always nervous that I miss something. But at the end of the day, I did my best. I tried my best, and it's really all that matters. But I published it through Kindle Direct Publishing, or KDP, and that is through Amazon. So I'll provide the link to my poetry collection down in the description, so you can check it out if you want. But yeah, it went live. Okay, so Tuesday was January 12th, right? My book went live on January 13th, Wednesday. Now, Wednesday, I wasn't working on the book or book-related matters as long. Tuesday, I had been working for the paperback version, so that was a bit messier. Dealing with margins, getting things set up. But the ebook, the Kindle version, wasn't quite as bad to work with. And then after that, Wednesday, it actually became live just later in the day, which was really fast. So then Wednesday is when I started kind of spreading the news to family and friends, and Thursday is when I started researching local news outlets and contacting them, like the college I'm going to that has its own newspaper, and different news outlets around the city and the state. And I also got in touch with my high school, which is part of a statewide virtual schooling program. And I got in contact with them, and they said they'd spread the news with staff that were in charge of their social media to promote my book. So I don't know how all of this is going to turn out, but at the end of the day, I'm still really excited. And then yesterday I could kind of relax, because yesterday was, where I live, yesterday was Friday, and I just could kind of sit back and relax a little bit, because all the important things for that book have been done. And I heard a few copies have been ordered, so I'm a little nervous. Mostly because before I published the manuscript, I was able to preview how the book will look, but I just get overly paranoid, and I am still a little overly paranoid that the book is not going to look how I want it to when I receive my own copy of it in the mail sometime next week. But I think right now I just have to trust that things will be okay. And so I guess this is kind of an off tangent. I haven't officially announced today's topic for this video. But really what I want to say is that sometimes in life you will feel very nervous about things that you have done that are really, really important to you. And sometimes I think you've just got to roll with it, You can't control that fear. You can't really let go of it. But you can get through it. Actually, it reminds me of something a character said in a movie I was watching a couple months ago. You may or may not have seen it, but it's called The Good Dinosaur. It's a Disney Pixar animated film, and it's basically about this dinosaur named Arlo, who goes on this adventure with a human named Spot, and he learns a lot of things about courage and what it means to be a friend. And it's a really heartfelt movie. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend checking it out. But in one scene, one of the dinosaurs, a Tyrannosaurus Rex, is talking to Arlo about fear, and something the T-Rex said to Arlo really stands out to me. Because Arlo was talking with the T-Rex and some other T-Rexes about fear. And the T-Rex in question was talking about one time that he had been going through a desert for so long and he was so thirsty. So when he saw a little pond, he bent down to drink, and then crocodiles launched at his face. And Arlo said it sounded like a scary experience, to put it short. But the T-Rex said that he was scared. He himself, the T-Rex, was scared when that happened. And Arlo thought this T-Rex was very brave, very firm, very rough. But the T-Rex said, I think I can still remember how it goes exactly. The T-Rex said, if you ain't scared of a croc biting you on the face, then you ain't alive. So, if you're not scared of a crocodile biting you on the face, then you're not alive. And the T-Rex said that you can't get through fear. You cannot, he said you cannot get rid of fear. Okay, I misspoke. You cannot get rid of fear, but you can overcome it, because fear is like Mother Nature. It helps you find out what you're made of. And I just thought, wow, that's really deep. And as a writer and a reader, I really like looking for deep meanings in the things that people say, be it in a quote or in a movie or in a book. And I just thought I'd bring that up. So I guess today is really just talking about fears and being okay with fear that isn't just going to go away sometimes. Because I also want to bring something else up, which is weird, because I am serious. I didn't plan on it. I didn't even remember it until out of nowhere. Okay, so my book, 71 Echoes of My Soul, came out, it first became live on January 13th, right? Well, I guess I probably don't need to hold any names back on this one, do I? Well, on January 13th, the same day my book first went live, my role model, Kenjirou Tsuda, a famous Japanese actor, voice actor, narrator, occasional singer, he's the guy I mentioned before that does so many things. Well, January 13th was the day that really his one of his first films began production. Now, to put it short, you can check out his Wikipedia page. I edited it last night to expand a little on this topic, but he was involved in this project called Actors Short Film. So, Actors Short Film is a project launched by WOW, W-O-W-O-W, I guess, so you'd say it, wow. I'm not sure, I haven't looked at the katakana pronunciation, but that's how it's spelled in English, so that's what I'm going with right now. And it's, WOW is a Japanese station that today has been open for about 30 years. So to celebrate that 30th anniversary, they launched this project called Actors Short Film, where 5 actors, one of which is Tsuda, would each direct a short film that is or under 25 minutes. And I think one of those 5 films will be selected based on viewers' votes and film critics. One of those 5 films will be chosen to be presented at the Shorts Film Festival and Asia that is held later this year. And now, as far as I know, distribution of those films only began on January 13th, so we don't know whose film got picked yet. But I will tell you, personally, I am rooting for Tsuda because I have this innate sensation, this innate feeling of how hard he's worked on this, because again, if you check out his Wikipedia page, which I did translate myself, the biography and most of the tables last summer, he is very passionate about this. I know it, because he's been dreaming of being a film director since he was younger. And maybe that's kind of weird to say. I know that he feels this. There are some things about a person that I think shine through their expressions, the way they hold themselves, and I can at least draw a conclusion, an educated guess, as a scientifically inclined person, that he is in some way anticipating this, because it's a big step for him. And my point is, I faintly remember reading last week about how the films would begin distribution on January 13th. But then other things happened, and I really just forgot about all that. And I was doing my own thing. And it was only when I got on Twitter to announce the publication of my book that I got tweet notifications for Tsuda, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot. That's right, isn't it? And I looked, because I was trying to make sure I was reading it right, because again, I forgot about it, so it just shocked me a little. I looked, and it said that distribution of the films, including Get, Set, Go, the name of Tsuda's film, had actually started. And I just thought, wow, that is amazing. So I kind of talked about it a little in a tweet. In Japanese, I tend to do that because I just like to be introspective in Japanese. But in a nutshell, what I said was, it's interesting, I think, that for both me and Tsuda, January 13th is an important and a sincere day, right? Because in a distant country, this man is finding and experiencing, he's experiencing and finding his dream of becoming a director. And in the same way, on January 13th, I am experiencing and finding my dream of becoming a writer. And I just found that really cool. And I feel like it shows that miracles do exist. And for that reason, that is why I dedicated my book in honor of those people that just inspire me. And I'm still very grateful for that. And now, getting back on topic about fear, I know I tend to ramble a lot. Let's see if I can check on here. I'm recording this on my MP3, so okay, about almost 20 minutes. That's basically standard now. But now, about fear, I think sometimes fear is a good thing, because I think of it this way: it keeps you alive. Hypothetically, I think if you weren't afraid, then you might do things that are reckless, like step out into the street when a car is just about to cross and possibly hit you. But at the same time, I know that having too much fear, having too much of that thing can be a bad thing also. But this is one thing that's been helping alleviate my nerves about however my book might come out. Now, the thing is, a few people have already placed orders for my book, including one of my mom's friends from Ireland, and, well, since I was sharing it with a friend now, basically that also includes some of my old teachers for English. So, okay, yeah, I'll admit, I've been a little nervous because, you know, I'm officially a writer now, but I think that's basically about the hardest critic I could get, probably from a former English teacher, because, you know, they're well-versed and trained and studied, right, in, well, English. And my book is like a whole new field for them to just kind of analyze. So I am nervous about that, but then I ask myself, why am I nervous? And I realize I'm nervous of criticism. I mean, I'm sure that's not really a weird statement. I'm sure everyone gets nervous of criticism at one point. But I ask myself, why am I afraid of someone having a different opinion? I mean, I'll be honest, when I was designing the cover for my book, I got criticism from my parents, and that helped me. That was constructive criticism. That helped me figure out the next best choice for the book cover. So, at best, this criticism is just going to give me some ideas of how other people think of my book, and the way I see it, it doesn't mean I have to 100% completely just reverse and change the way I write, because I love the way I write poetry. I like to be ambiguous, and I think a lot of times when I read modern poetry, no offense to modern poetry, of course, but sometimes when I read it, I feel like, you know, I read it one time and I just really understand what's being discussed. But the way I write poetry, I want you to be confused and curious the first time you read it. I want you to have to read that poem more than once to try to figure out what the meaning is. And I want you to sit there and think, what in the world was Maya talking about? Because that is my point. I like being ambiguous for that reason, because I think it's so important to be able to analyze and interpret what we're reading to really get a sense of the deeper meanings, of the broader pictures. And so I feel like I've had my own experiences and emotions. Like, I go through so many emotions when I write poems on things. And sometimes I talk about, sometimes I allude or reference things that have happened that maybe people don't really generally talk about, because I'll be honest, a lot of poems in my book touch base on, because you see, over the 3.5 years I wrote those poems, I was going through an up and down cycle of my self-esteem, of my idea of myself. So there were times during those 3.5 years that I felt very down about myself. And, you know, sometimes I would talk about getting through those feelings, or sometimes I would just elaborate on the feelings I felt about love. And I'll be frank, I mean, I'm not exempt from those kinds of feelings either. Sometimes I do question what it will be like in the future when I find a special someone. And so I just explore that a little in the poetry. And I think it's really similar to how some singers might publish a song that everyone starts finding really controversial because it talks about something that nobody really openly talks about. But I think deep down everyone knows, or at least feels, that maybe it's something that deserves to be talked about. And another thing, poetry, the majority of my poems are written in freestyle. Some of the first ones are terza rima, rhyme scheme, but the majority are freestyle because after a while I grew to really enjoy freestyle. And it's just, as well, it's very freeing. And I think I'm okay with you finding a different perspective or a different set of emotions from reading a poem that I had certain emotions while I was writing it. Okay? I'm okay with that. Because to me, poetry is ambiguous. When I analyzed poetry in an English class before, everyone usually had slightly different ideas, right? But the point was they were all drawing something from that deeper analysis. I feel like, in a sense, that's what I want to bring kind of back to modern poetry just a little bit. I guess just that feeling that you're not going to know right away what I'm talking about, but you're going to feel something from it. That's the point. You're going to feel something. Something in your heart and your soul is going to feel something. Maybe the jolt of a memory that you didn't realize you had, or maybe just an adventure brimming in your mind. I don't know. It's up to you depending on how you interpret things. But the point is, how does this all relate to my fear and how I've gotten over the fear of criticism, you ask? Well, seriously, thinking about my role model, thinking about Tsuda, and what he must be going through right now has seriously helped me get over that. Because I was thinking yesterday, well, I'm not the only one feeling like this. I mean, Tsuda's film is being distributed now with those other 4 films, with those other 4 actors' films. And surely he's a little nervous inside too, because after all, his film has to be reviewed by film critics and other viewers, and knowing him, he's worked so hard on this film. And I can only imagine maybe he's nervous of how, in a nutshell, film critics are going to pull that film apart and dissect it, right, and point out maybe some of the flaws of it. Obviously, maybe some of the good parts of it, but also maybe some of the flaws of it. And maybe he gets a little nervous, but then I realize maybe he's felt that way his whole career as a voice actor and an actor and a narrator, because he started out playing minor roles in movies and voice acting roles, but then over time he just got so much more well known, I think, because people began to see his inner talent, and he was able to express that and expand upon it. And so I think really there is no way to get rid of your fear. But like I mentioned through that quote earlier, you can get through it, right? It's like Mother Nature. You can't get rid of it, but you can get through it. And it shows you in the end, at the end of the day, just what you're made of. And then I realized, because sometimes I like to contemplate in Japanese. I just like talking in Japanese sometimes. It's fun. It's just my second language. But I was basically thinking, I was thinking and I was saying that even if something happens, things will be okay. Or kekyoku, subete wa daijoubu yo. Subete wa yoi de na. Everything will be good, won't it? Kekyoku, Tsuda-san to watashi no ryouhou mo yume fumidashite iru kara. Because in the end, Tsuda and I both are still chasing after our dreams, right? We're still stepping toward our dreams. Our dreams don't end with the one thing that is now being published for each of us. Our dreams are continuing. And I think it's that passion, that fuel that will take us forward. And so, you know what? I'm not even really afraid anymore. Because I can be proud of what I've done, but not let it drag me down with worry at the same time. I can go on with my day and do the things that I deeply enjoy, because I didn't do this book for the money. I will be frank on that, extremely frank. I did not do it for the money. I did it because I love writing. And that's the same reason I'm going to do everything else in my life, because I love it. And yeah, at the end of the day, even if you are afraid of something, I think just being able to acknowledge and work through it is the best approach for getting through it. Because then you can find peace with the situation or the fear and go on to do other things that make your heart soar. So, as I wrap up this session, I just want to personally say, anyone listening out there, you are not as alone as you think. You have more support than you probably remember or know. And on that note, I just want to say I am extremely grateful, for example, for all the people that have supported me over these years, over these months, over these weeks. If you're from family, to friends, to teachers and role models, without you all, I would not have made it this far in what I do, or the passion that I hold for what I do. So, thank you so much, all of you. So, until next time, I'm Maya, and this has been Talky Tidbits.